All right. Hello, everybody out there in Independence World. Jeremy from Real Truth. Welcome to today's episode. Today, I'm going to get into a couple of things about mainstream media's techniques that they're using to create a narrative about these shooting incidents that have been occurring and why you're seeing an increase in frequency of these violent acts. Okay. We've been seeing an increase since you know who came into office. And it's very disturbing. It should be to everybody, but not for the reasons, or not just for the reasons that these people talk about. They create these narratives of intersectional identity where a person's white and they're sex addicts and they carry guns, where you have white people in the Oval Office who also smoke marijuana, and now they've been removed from the from White House staffing. So you're seeing where even though so basically you have people of different identities, and they can use these identities in many ways to create these narratives to ridicule through indignation without having all of the solid facts. They're using anonymity of investigators who might give them or claim to give them information. Okay, they can later backtrack or retract those statements without making a stink of it. And so what you see are a lot of these narratives. And I want to go over those without impeding on anybody's identities. We have to understand, we have to start putting our R and D in front of our names down. It's the reason why I stayed out of this last election. I understood what was going on. I saw what happened in the election in Massachusetts here in 2020, and I thought it was sickening when people just decided not even to look into what had happened, and it didn't make mainstream news. And I will revert you to a Dr. Shiva, who had run as a Republican in the Senate in Massachusetts, had a huge argument, had found massive irregularities with our election that directly relates to what happened with this last one. And we could talk about the procedural way of not hearing evidence, which is disgusting to me in today's Department of Justice, in today's legal system. Justice is not fair in this country, unfortunately. And, even a person like myself with a dissident message, I'm not anonymous. We cannot be anonymous in reporting what we're doing. We are regular people who decide to take action. It's my responsibility, I feel, like a senior millennial who has fought in multiple wars, corporate wars, predatory corporate wars, okay, in the name of the global war on terror and all of these things. So I'm going to talk a little bit about these things, and I just kind of set up these pages to go off, right? So to begin, Aaliyah. All right, Aaliyah, I'm going to go for a run here. In a little while. I am an old school millennial, and I enjoyed late 90s R&B, and this would be the epitome of it. Aaliyah was tragically killed in a plane crash at a very young age, but she was on her way to serving the corporate media complex and to push our narcissism and egotism narrative unconsciously. That's what the music industry does, not just hip-hop, not just R&B. They all do it. Aaliyah would be an example. But we take that darkness, that dark information and knowledge, and we understand that there is both a dark and a light to both of these things. So we can honor the goodness of these people who were tragically lost, and Aaliyah is one of them. And that's my opinion. If you don't like that, that's fine too. But this is my perception of reality based on research. Ding, 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 ding. That's the start of the bell. I don't know if anybody heard that or not. But let's see. What to know about, let's start with the Colorado shooting. Okay, so for the last 5 and 6 days, you've seen people talk about this shooter with a sex addiction and all of these other things to paint a picture of this person's reality, or a perception of reality. What was this person thinking? Okay. Now, if you're under the impression that they didn't already know what this guy was into or up to, you're very naive. They have been spying on everybody for a very long time. Everything we say and do is being recorded. Everything. All of it. And at any given moment, they can use it to create a profile of you as if they already haven't. And then this is what can be leaked to the media. So anything you're doing, they can leak it to the media. If this person was watching pornography, they could use that. They could have used a text message of this guy talking to a friend saying, dude, I watch too much porn, or whatever the case. I mean, you have people who've been locked up for a year from COVID. They're not dating. They're not going out. They're not meeting new people. What are they doing? They have access to access. Porn is legal. So is marijuana. But you're going to find out that the White House now ridicules marijuana users, and they fired white, and I quote, white staffers for having smoked marijuana. So they're using this intersectionality to label people. Look at these white people in the Oval Office. Look what they're focused on. They're weed smokers. Look at them. They can afford it. Look how expensive marijuana is. They can afford to do it. That's inequity. If they can afford to do the leisurely things, they can afford to give you more money. I'm just thinking like that, but this is what they can use it for, right? So anyway, they've been creating this narrative about this guy. We don't know the details. You don't know the details. You don't know why this person killed anybody. You've not heard him say that. You've not heard any of it. You've heard anonymous officials. 10 people. A suspect was arrested. Let's see if they're going to provide any information. A witness posted the video. Many people, I just saw a woman's terrified face. Okay, so we're looking for the things to know. Elected officials weigh in. Who is it? These aren't elected officials, by the way. Who is the suspect and how is he caught? Scant details about the gunman were revealed by the authorities, who said they had one person in custody and that the suspect had been injured during the shooting. Video showed a handcuffed man being escorted. I did see this. The nature of the suspect's injuries was not immediately clear. Okay, so what do we know about it? So they said that there was something to know. What's to know? Just a few days before that, they were talking about this guy being a sex addict and all kinds of other crazy stuff. And it's important to understand that, actually, I'm looking here, the New York Times. This is actually one of the more responsible articles I've ever seen them report. Wow. So, in any case, there are various. If I go back, okay, so if we go to some of these, Time's going to report. I'm very surprised by that. I'm actually very happy that they did that. I'm going to applaud Mr. Neil Vigdor, who deserves the real Pulitzer Prize here. Great job. This is like the least biased news article I have seen the New York Times report in years. Wow. I'm impressed. I am impressed, New York Times. You're stepping up your game. You're still at the very bottom of the scumbag totem pole, though, and Time's right there with you. What an expert on, and just to support what I'm going to say, because obviously this one didn't, and I'm actually happy that it didn't. We need more reporting like that, okay? What an expert on evangelicals and sex says about the Atlanta shooter's claim he had a sex addiction. Yeah, experts on evangelicals. Any expert on evangelicals from the Time magazine is meant to deceive you and keep you from the truth. That's a fact, especially when it is about religion. What needs to be understood about religion right now is that it's been subverted by evil. Satan has infiltrated the church. This is a fact. And I'm not some Bible thumper here. I never have been, man. But if there's one thing I do know is once you lift the veil of consciousness, you start to see the real universal truth. You start to see that we all share the same consciousness and we all share God together if we choose to. And these people have subverted that to the point where we don't know what's true and what's not about ourselves, about religion. The experts claim to be experts. They're really subverting your consciousness, all right? And that's another discussion that I would love to talk about when we talk about consciousness. So anyway, what they're doing, claiming he had a sex addiction. All right, an expert on evangelicals and sex saying about this guy claiming to have had a sex addiction. So you can read it for yourself, but they're basically just, no matter what the article says, it's the headline that's very important because it imprints into your mind a connection between sex, addiction, and this person's violent act or acts, which are, obviously, I don't even have to, we don't have to say what they are. Obviously, there's evil behind these things. All right, and this is just to kind of reinforce the narratives that are created, the intersectionality of identity. I see through it. A lot of people are going to say, yeah, this guy is just paranoid. Yeah, this and that. Sure. That's when you come from a place of fear. That's when your perception of reality is coming from a place of anxiety and fear. That's an illusion. When you come from love and respect and you come from a place of non-anonymity, you start to be able to see this light and live in the light. And once you do, you don't give it away. You keep it. Because you realize that all of this stuff is meant to deviate you from your own purpose. All right. And so they're firing staffers for marijuana, but still employs some past pot users. And so they'll talk a lot about this. And they backtrack on it. They give a public position, and then they give a private position as well. This is what Hillary Clinton said. This is what they all do, Republican and Democrat alike. All right? This is not a Republican and Democrat thing, okay? In no way am I trying to be partisan. This is not about partisanship. That word goes out the window with me right now. There is no such thing as Republican and Democrat, and people can say what they want. If they argue with me, that just lets me know their ignorance in the matter. No offense. All right, so why is this important? All of these frequencies of shootings are increasing significantly since the new administration has taken office. Gee, I wonder why. When you look back, if I can skip here and go to this Amazon, canceling timber sycamore, Trump ends Obama's shadow mercenary arming program in Syria. Obama started the Syrian war. We know this. It's no longer secret. Trump came in. Guys like General Mattis did not like the fact that Trump was reversing their policies on all of these godforsaken, globalist-driven agenda wars, where they use the media to conceal the actions, the immoral, dishonorable, and disgustingly deceptive actions that our bureaucrats take abroad, and their ability to cover it up. It's insane. Anyway, this is I've not read this book. William C. Lewis is a source. Another would be George Webb, who talks a lot about the workings of how these people do what they do and get away with it the way that they do. It's really impressive. Anyway, going back, what they're doing is they want to keep this narrative going. If you remember, look, this is a Tsarnaev guy. His older brother was killed after they had perpetrated their terrorist act. And it turns out, by the way, a guy had posted on, I was at the Boston Marathon bombing. I had just moved to Boston in 2012. I was at the marathon bombing when this occurred. And, having spent time in Afghanistan and Iraq on many occasions as a Marine, I've seen a lot of things. And to come home and see that stuff happen on our soil is traumatic enough. And when I have a fellow Marine say, hey, I think this is a false flag, I didn't like it very well. And so I had to lash out and say, who in the hell do you think you are, man? Like, you just served your country too. And now you come home and you're going to spread all this crap. And the guy says, well, that's a myopic way of looking at it. And that offended me to the point where I unfriended him, right? Well, look who's talking now. So it turns out that like a year later, as I'm like learning more about the Boston Marathon stuff, because I was following on NPR what was going on with the marathon bombing on the radio, and information about it was very scant. They really didn't come forward with the mainstream about all of the details, and I found that very surprising because it had hit at the heart of so many Americans, not in just Boston, but in the United States and in the world, because Boston's an international city. It's very diverse. Part of the reason I love being here, there's so many different people from different countries here. And I love that. It reminds me of traveling. It reminds me of these things. So anyway, it turns out that the FBI was made aware of these guys by Russian intelligence, and they still allowed this shit to happen. And I'm swearing because I need to emphasize my discontent with the inefficiency of our investigative authorities. So this is when I started to wake up. And what you're seeing now is this was just yesterday. This is a post from yesterday. All right. And very similar, around the same timing as all of these tragedies are happening, now you see the face of terrorism again. They are instilling terrorism using predatory corporate capitalistic measures. And this is including the corporate media. The Associated Press is corporate media. The New York Times, corporate media. The Washington Post, corporate media. Fox News, corporate media. MSNBC, CNBC, CNN, ABC, CBS, PBS Frontline. That's corporate media. They are run by corporation. They run corporate ads. They are corporate media. So anyway, all they're doing is boosting this alarm of terrorism. This is what the Romans did. This is what we're doing. And this is when I know that the alarms are being sounded out of desperation. When you know about the central banking system and the Federal Reserve and everything that they've done to financialize our legislation, and by creating all of these identity wars, they're able to legislate themselves and ourselves into oblivion. Into oblivion. We are financially going broke and they know it. And so they're using terrorism as a way to perpetuate fear and anxiety so that we continue to allow them to print money and be irrational. All right? These people are disgusting. These terrorists deserve whatever they deserve. I leave that up for the juries. I leave that up for the judicial system. But why are we still dicking with this? Why are we still fiddling around with this? Why? Because they can use it to post these headlines. It's the same picture. This guy was posted on Time Magazine. This guy was posted on Time Magazine. That's insane. And they're using it to create a perception or to keep the perception. All right, so keep that in mind. All of these shootings, start asking yourself a damn question. How is it that these people in the last 20 years have gained access to your data and information and you've rolled over and allowed them to do it for 20 years and all of a sudden, all of these things start happening again? And as they happen, nobody questions why. Who these people were talking to. What about the Vegas shooter? Where's his girlfriend? Who was he talking to? What was in his manifesto? Why is it okay for you to see what was in other people's manifestos when it fits the narrative of other things? Why is that okay? For example, I think it was the guy that shot one of the senators from Arizona. It was a Democrat senator. And they released what that guy was talking about, Puff the Magic Dragon and all kinds of crazy stuff. They released it because it made the guy look schizophrenic and all kinds of crazy stuff. And it discredited the guy's character beyond what the guy had done. His actual actions, you know. In any case, so there's that. All right, getting to the Timber Sycamore. I had reported in a 20-something minute video about the fact that under Mr. O's or President O's administration, he had funded Al-Qaeda. Boom. So there's that article. That was in December of last year. Boom. 6-minute read. Now, this is important because they're saying that he funded Al-Qaeda. This is how they laundered money into Timber Sycamore. This is the guns, the drugs, the humans, all of the trafficking that has occurred since. And so this was supposedly launched in 2012 or 2013, according to Wikipedia. If you want to understand the American perception, use Wikipedia. Nothing more. You have to look for facts yourself, but it was actually launched before that, during which time the Obama administration funded the CIA $1 billion. And shortly after, the Senate wanted to know why it was we were sending It turns out that ISIS was using the same weapons and equipment, and we were funding them, basically. Not basically, we were. We just were. Right? There's no beating around the bush, man. There's no anonymity here. I am who I am. I'm a regular citizen reporting this stuff because nobody else will. We were funding these people. It's all out in the open. It used to be classified. So we start the Syrian war. ISIS comes in and starts operating in places where my brothers died in arms. In Iraq. People like me are pissed off, and we want to know what the hell's going on. Why aren't anybody doing anything about it there? Who's in control of this? Why is our situation deteriorating so much? Who's in charge here? Well, let me tell you who's in charge. General Lloyd Austin was one of the men in charge of that region at the time. He was put in command of that region and that situation. And in this Senate hearing of 2015, he is talking about his failure to control the problem, during which time ISIS gained a foothold and then took control of large amounts of territories that we once held as, well, it turns out foreign invaders in a predatory corporate capitalistic war. And so here we are. This guy, General Lloyd Austin III, and this is 6 years ago, admitting that he failed. He did not do his job. And who just appointed him Secretary of Defense? Joe Biden. And now this guy is in charge of overseeing the same damn mess that he created to begin with, or failed to stop. How does this happen, people? How does this happen? So here we are again. More terrorism, more shootings, more need for security measures, so more impeding on your personal privacy. They're coming for you, folks, and they're going to use your past and your habits when the time comes, when you finally realize that it's at your door. Okay? That the United States government is at your door when you do not comply. And this is what happens. This is not conspiracy, folks. This guy was in charge of the uprising of ISIS. He managed a failure that allowed a terrorist organization to thrive. How did they thrive? Well, when you're able to launder money under the nose of the American public, get away with it, and then have the Senate findings that actually show malfeasance and corruption to be covered and buried by mainstream media. And then you have a guy like Michael Schmidt, who writes this article, Behind the Sudden Death of a $1 billion Secret CIA War in Syria. Notice that you have to purchase this article, but not this one. Right? Now you have to purchase these ones in order to see them. And this article was written by a guy named Michael Schmidt, who is a mouthpiece. He gets anonymous information and then reports it, creating a false perception of reality. By the way, he got a Pulitzer Prize for reporting about Russian interference in the 2016 election, which people to this day who claim they understand what's going on, when you ask them about the Mueller report, you ask them about the Durham report, you ask them about all of the intricate characters that were involved in the quid pro quo, from the impeachment inquiry to the impeachment itself, all of the military-industrial complex rising to the surface, from Fiona Hill to Ambassador Taylor to George Kent. All of these people were major role players and still are. They still have massive influence, and it's really crazy. But these people, whether he knows it or not, he gets paid a lot of money to report anonymously about what's going on, and they can use that because we're supposed to trust the intelligence apparatus, and that's just not the case. It is just not the case, folks. And of course, again, you have a guy like William C. Lewis that are writing books like this that talks openly about what has happened, and people choose not to read it. It's conspiracy theory. You are ridiculed through righteous indignation. The condescending nature of people you try to talk to is incredible. I mean, at this point, we know what it is. So, but in any case, so there you have it. We have perception of reality. We have terrorism. We have the funding of terrorism. And we put these people right back into office. And then you have people that post on social media that Barack Obama was the first president in U.S. history to not have a single scandal against him. These are people with master's degrees. These are people who, have important positions at institutions. Okay? This is how dangerous of times we're in, folks. And if you're not going to listen to what I'm saying, well, that's okay too. Folks, we have to wake up. We have to get our exercise. We have to increase our bone density, muscle mass. We have to hydrate. We have to get sleep. We have to put the things that are in priority. That we have to prioritize who we are and what we're doing. And when you prioritize those things, do so having researched it fully. We cannot take action on things whose existence relies on illusions, fear, and anxiety. We can't do it. We have been. It doesn't work. I'm very well aware of the lack of ability of Americans to self-reflect. It's a very hard thing to do daily. But it's our responsibility. We cannot allow this stuff to happen. You want to know why why a guy like me didn't vote in this election? We talk about Mike Pompeo. We talk about the connections with the CIA. Anybody connected to Mueller, Comey, the CIA, any of these people, they shouldn't be in office. And unfortunately, they are. And they facilitate the cartel banking system. They facilitate us going to war. They facilitate us being led down a false path by the mainstream news agencies. All right? With that being said, guys, please be healthy, be safe. Enjoy your day. Enjoy your ability and your willingness and your newfound purpose to seek knowledge and continue to seek that knowledge and apply that knowledge. Use it as wisdom in the present. We take that knowledge of the past, apply it, we rationalize it and apply that rationalized knowledge to the present. We call this wisdom. We pass that wisdom we repeat this wisdom to ourselves so that we start to live in the frequency of and the light of that wisdom. And then we share that wisdom with others, okay? And we do so knowing that we are nothing without the environment around us. Those around us have to be well too. And so this is our job. It's our duty to ensure that we all share the same consciousness. And that's why we do what we do here. All right, so God bless everybody. Stay independent. Stay motivated. Take care.